Shalom, guys. Welcome back to another episode here at YASHAV Ministries with Sara. I always say thank you for being there. If you like the content that we have on our channel, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put on the comment section down below. This week's Torah portion will continue with the book of Bereshit, Genesis. We are towards the end of Abraham's narrative, Father Abraham. We are at the brink of him taking that next step in his journey in fulfilling or manifesting that promise that was given to him by Adonai. And so we begin with Chayei, Sara, right? The life of Sarah. And we will discuss a little bit about that, mainly chapter 23, like a review. And so we will talk about the life of Sarah and Abraham's journey and transition from burying his wife, and so that he can find a wife suitable for his son, so that this blessing and promise can continue. Okay, so let's get started. So this week's Torah portion starts in Genesis. We're going to the PowerPoint, probably a small PowerPoint. Chayei Sara, okay? And this Torah portion starts in 23, chapter 23, Genesis, verses 1 to chapter 25, verses 18. The prophet's portion is 1 Kings chapter 1, verses 1 through 31. And the New Testament portion is John chapter 4, verses 3 to 14. So, part 1 of this week's Parashat, Sara, the life of Sarah, begins with the account of her death at age 127, and tells us how the first great matriarch of the Jewish people was buried in the cave of Machpelah in Hebron, a burial site which Abraham had purchased from Ephron the Hittite for 400 shekels of silver in Genesis 23, verses 1 through 20, which we will read. Since the account of Sarah's death is given just after the account of the near sacrifice of Isaac, some sages link the events together, suggesting that the shock of the loss of her beloved son at the hand of her husband was too much to bear. We also have Abraham warn Eliezer not to seek a bride for Isaac from among the Canaanite women. Abraham knew that a Canaanite were not destined to be ejected from the land and erased from history. He did not think it prudent that his seed, to whom God had promised the land, should intermarry with a race from whom the land was to be taken. And so the Torah portion opens with, and Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiryat Arba, that is in Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Then Abraham rose from her bedside, his dead wife, and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner, a stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site here so I can bury my dead. Abraham's spiritual odyssey has reached a climax with the Akedah. And so the Akedah is last week's Torah portion. Towards the end, we see how the culmination of everything that has been building up in Abraham's walk since Genesis 12, since God told him to leave everything, his inheritance, his father's house, and to start walking in obedience to the Creator's voice. We have seen how God has tested him and how Abraham has been promised the land, descendancy, and last week at the end of the Torah portion, all the promises that we read from chapter 12 to chapter 21, 22 are put to the test in the offering of Isaac. And you have to understand that Abraham being able to offer Isaac to the Father, his son, his only begotten son, is a very important important moment, because Abraham could have easily, after everything that has been promised, after leaving everything, now that God's word has been fulfilled in Isaac, a manifestation of the promise, Abraham could have attributed the blessing and the descendancy to Isaac and preserved his life. But Abraham was conscious that everything he had and has was given by Adonai, including Isaac. And so if God has said to him, give me Isaac back, then Abraham was willing to do that for the sake of obeying God's will. Okay? So, but two important issues remain: the concern with mortality and the preoccupation with the posterity. The former finds expressions in the acquisition of hereditary burial sites, the latter through the selections of a wife for Isaac, so that the succession of the line may be secured. Okay, so here in the narrative, we are talking about how there is a change in the narrative of Abraham. Right, we go from the promises, we go from Abraham's walk. Each point in which he stops, he is confronted, he is protected, he is defended, and we see him tested. We see his character in Sodom and Gomorrah, how he was willing to protect, save the just and the righteous, and not let them die with the wicked. Obviously, all these scenarios are describing a man in which God said in Genesis 18:19 that he wouldn't hide anything from Abraham, because Abraham is someone that he will entrust and that is willing to teach his future generations, his children, the way of the Lord, which is justice and righteousness. Okay? And so, as we read in chapter 23, we will see Abraham fulfilling this, okay? Doing justice, doing righteousness, trying to represent his faith the best way that he can in an environment not structured to Adonai's order. Okay, so it says, now Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose before his dead and spoke to the sons of Het, saying, I am a stranger, a sojourner among you. Give me a burial site among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The sons of Het answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choice of our graves. None of us will refuse you his grave for burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed to the people of the land and the sons of Het. And he spoke with them, saying, If you wish for me to bury my dead out of the sight, hear me and approach Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, which is at the end of the field, for the full price. Let him give it to me in your presence for the burial site. And so, I've spoken about this before, and here Abraham is trying to, one, bury his wife, and two, start this process, this legal process in which the land that he acquires for burial and for his family, it is his. It has no tie to the kings and to the gods, which is something that we elaborated on. And so here Abraham is demonstrating his loyalty, just like when the king of Sodom said, give me the man and I'll give you the gold and this and that. And Abraham is like, nah, I'm not gonna give you that benefit of you putting yourself over me and feeding your ego and pridefully think that you have given me everything I have. I want nothing from you, because everything I have and I need comes from the God, the Creator, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And he stands firm on that. And here he is standing firm that he is Abraham, and he's a follower of Adonai, and he will not. He's willing to pay the price, the full price for the land, right? And this is a very important negotiation, because here we see how Abraham, one, even though he is promised the land, he is understanding that there is a certain protocol that him as a man representing God has to follow, right? All righteousness needs to be fulfilled, right? All justice needs to be fulfilled. And so instead of saying, hey, I have the real God, the true God, and he will crush you, Abraham is saying, okay, in this time of mourning, I want to bury my dead, but I will buy the land, and it will be mine, and I owe nothing to you. Okay, so that's what he's trying to do here, okay? It says, now Ephron was sitting among the sons of Het, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Het, even all of whom went into the gate of the city, saying, now my Lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that it is in it. The presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed before the people of the land. He spoke to Ephron, saying, if you will only please listen to me, and I will give the price of field accepted from me, that I may bury my dead there. Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying, my Lord, listen to me. A piece of the land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is it between me and you? So bury your dead. So now, once Abraham heard the price, he paid it. This is my land. Now, it's interesting because legally, everything has been done in front of the city, in the city gates, witnesses. So this land, Canaanite land, or the Hittite land, it is now completely tied to Abraham and his descendancy. And so we see how progressively they start buying land and start establishing themselves. And this is how the process of Abraham becoming a great nation and inheriting the land starts to manifest, right? Because we went from promises and trials and tests, and now is the continuation and the promulgation of this blessing, which is through Abraham. He will have descendancy, he will inherit the land, and all the nations of the world will be blessed through him. Once Abraham buys the cave, he establishes the procedure with a servant on who he is going to pick for his son, right? Because now that he has buried his wife, which was the vehicle to bring the blessing, now he has to preserve the blessing, right? He has to do his part to find a wife, a suitable wife that can be the Sara for Isaac, that can bring the next generation forward, and that can carry on this blessing. And so last year we talked about this. We're not going to dive into it too much, but we will read part of what the servant does, right? Because this Torah portion speaks about how Isaac finds comfort after he sees Rebekah. Abraham says, swear on my generations, right? Put your hand under my thigh. And here his servant is swearing that he will go and find a suitable wife for Isaac. And so in the process of this, the servant goes, he's worried because he's like, am I going to find a suitable wife? And two, will she accept the offer of my master, right, of my Lord? And so he prays, and he gives a specific prayer that you guys will have to read in chapter 24. And in the process of this prayer, Rebekah fulfills every step of this prayer. And the biggest quality of Rebekah is her willingness to serve and to protect that fellow servant that was sent on behalf of Abraham for Isaac. And the moment that she manifests this, she's put in a position where she has to accept that same calling that was given to Abraham, right? She has to leave her parents' house, her inheritance, now to inherit something better, which was promised to Abraham from God through Isaac. And so in chapter 24, verse 60 says, they blessed Rebekah and said to her, May you and may you, our sister, become the thousands of 10,000, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them. Rebekah arose with her maid, and they mounted camels and followed the men. So their servant took Rebekah and departed. Right now, Isaac had come from going from Be'ir Lechai Roy, for he was living in the Negev. Isaac went out and mediated in the field towards evening, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, camels were coming. Rebekah lifted up his eyes, and when he saw Isaac, she dismounted her camel. She said to her servant, Who is the man walking on the field to meet us? And the servant said, He is my master. Then she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things they had done. Then Isaac brought her into her mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. In the closing, or in the culmination of this Torah portion, it's very simple, mostly a review. But here Isaac and Abraham are the transition and the evolution of the promise, which was given to Abraham, and now Isaac is going to be called to also walk by faith, also be tested. And he has to be able to manifest that which was informed by heaven. And this is what Abraham is doing, right? Abraham is understanding that the element and the purpose that he had to fulfill has been fulfilled the moment that he started walking away from his inheritance in his father's house, to the moment where Sarah gave birth to the promise. And now that she is resting, now Abraham understands that he is responsible as a father for that next generation to not only embrace it, but take it to the next level and make it grow. And so in this transition, Abraham is doing his best to find a suitable wife for his son. And they do, because obviously through the servant's prayer and God's favor, Isaac has had comfort from his mother, which teaches you a lot about how great of a mother was Sarah and how much she fulfilled their function in raising a suitable husband for Rebekah. That when she met him and they met one another, they willingly will be able to continue God's mission. And all of that was a responsibility of the parents, Abraham and Sarah, and Rebekah's parents, which is a culture that is embedded in the people, right? That's why Abraham says, go get someone from my people instead of a Canaanite. We have to instill those values, that information, that message that we have been learning. Heaven informs, we manifest, and God covers. That is what's happening with Abraham. Now that he has manifested heaven, he has manifested that which was given to him. Heaven is covering, because there's a promise. And God swore by himself that he will fulfill his purpose and his will to Abraham and his descendancy. All we have to do is obey. So that's all I got. Simple, concrete, to the point. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I always say, I don't know anything. I just know what I know, and I thank you for listening. So have a great week. Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.